You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again with another amazing show, and we have another amazing guest. We're going to talk to the one and only Daniel Tolson. Man, he's not just an amazing business owner and entrepreneur. He has won so many achievements in his life, and he's going to share that personal experience with us. He is someone that you really want to learn about today. And as a former athlete, Australian champion athlete, he's also founder and CEO of Tolson Institute. And we're going to learn all about his business coaching, his special knowledge about emotional intelligence. And before we go too deep, I just want to welcome Mr. Tolson to the show and say, how are you doing today?
My man, good morning and good evening to you. I'm wonderful, thank you. And it's another day where I get to do what I love to do. So it couldn't be better.
And this is going to be a fun story to, like they would say, peel back the layers like an onion. Because for you to do you've been seen on major networks, major platforms, and it's going to be very interesting to digest everything that you're going to say, but also see the details that you can spell out for our audience. So from the beginning, tell us where you're from and just give us a little sneak peek of how you got started in the business world.
I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, so about 70 kilometres west of Sydney, and basically where I lived, it was the last train station on the train track. So when they say you're at the last station, that's exactly where I lived. You couldn't go any further. And it was a beautiful place. It was quiet. It was slow. It was isolated from the rest of the world. And I grew up with a family of uneducated people, but all entrepreneurs. So they were all people of the land. They were all hard workers. So I started working at a very young age in the family business. And then from there, I was always involved in business-making decisions. My family were into construction. They were money lenders. They had laundry businesses. They had art and craft shops. They had real estate businesses. They had news agencies. The list just went on with what they had. So my finger was always in business. And the big turning point for me would have been in 2010 when my wife was involved in an aircraft accident. That's when I really launched my most current business, and that's when I went all in for myself. So no longer working for family, just purely working for myself.
And it sounds like you had a lot of access to not just leadership and emotional intelligence, but also this having a structure in your life. Were your parents or were there certain family members that help you develop that structure of being a very productive person, individual?
The productivity was a very simple form of productivity, and my father was a farmer. And what he would say is, you wake up before the sun and then you don't come home until the job is done. And that was how we managed our time. So it was taking every minute of the day and maximising it. So the strategy was just work long and hard hours. But when it actually came to time management, my brother and I would say that my mum would be late to her own funeral. So it wasn't always the smartest approach to time. It was just utilising everything that you had. So being entrepreneurs, they really didn't have a system or a strategy other than hard work and long hours. And sometimes this is a great strategy. You know, what we say is it takes about 23 years now to become a self-made millionaire. And the average self-made millionaire will work up to 60 hours plus per week for 20 years non-stop. And then they put their head up and grab a breath of fresh air. So that's the environment that I lived in. I was also blessed to have other uncles and cousins who had, how would I say it, whopping big businesses. Like these are huge businesses, 500 employees. So I also had the opportunity to travel around with them and see the back end of a big business like that. So I had the best of both worlds. One, family who just worked hard, who were farmers, and then second, the ones who had systems, processes, and strategies.
And speaking of systems and strategies and processing them, when you started, you're the CEO of Tolson Institute. When you started that practice, explain to the audience what it is that you serve for people as far as services and what you do for people and the mindset of the actual brand that it represents.
My clients come to me for three things. They come for influence, impact, and income. They first of all want to catapult their influence, and they want to become more influential across their peer network. Secondly, they want to accelerate their impact. They love to lead, and they're leaders in the lives of their families and their communities. And then thirdly, they want to unleash new income levels. And it's not all about the money. It's what they can do with the money that's important. So, for example, one of my clients, he said, Daniel, $5 billion is not enough revenue in my business. He said, based on that, I've only been able to feed 2 million homeless people. He said, we need to make more so we can serve more. So it's what they can do with the dollars. So my business, the values are to live your dream life and to live on your terms. Secondly, it's to be a leader and impact people and events. And then thirdly, it's to leave a legacy through the careers and the work that we do. So our philosophy really is just to unleash our full potential. And what we know about humans is that our DNA, if you stretched it out from where you are today to the sun, it would stretch from where you are to the sun and back 300 times. So it's getting what we're made of, this DNA, stretching it out as far as we can and seeing how far we can go. The competition is not against other people. The competition is against ourselves, just to see how far I can go in this lifetime. And that's what we're all about.
What are some of the traits that individuals, based on your experience, and maybe even yourself, had to develop a long time as far as growing yourself to be that valuable leader?
The first thing that all leaders have to develop, and this is not an inborn attribute, it's something that you've got to learn over time, it's courage. Leaders have the courage to move forward when there's no guarantees of success. Secondly, leaders have to learn charisma and charm. They have to be charismatic. Doesn't mean you have to be extroverted. You've got to be charismatic. See, the leader has the vision, and then the leader has the ability to get followers, and followers want somebody who's charismatic. You've also got to learn to be charming. Leaders have to negotiate constantly to get another step ahead in life. So they have to be able to use charm, and everybody loves to be charmed. And a charming leader will get more followers and they'll get more done. So it's courage, charisma, and charm. These are three key qualities of the leader. Within that, the leader also has to learn to become resilient. The leader knows that they're going to fail many times. They know they're going to fail more times than they're going to succeed. And the leader welcomes failure with an open mind and an open heart, because they know that the faster they fail, the faster they can succeed. And there's a beautiful proverb in Japan, and it says, fall down 7 times, get back up 8. So the leader welcomes failure with open arms. And when they do that, they're more willing to take the next step forward, especially in uncertain times like we live in now. In times of rapid change, this leader, they have that resiliency to keep moving forward.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio. We're talking to Daniel Tolson. You can go visit his website, danieltolson.com. And I like the part when you mentioned about failure, because failure allows us to have insight. And if you're willing to look at the details of what happened versus ignore it and try to just, I guess, be passive about it, how important is it to have insight and to see the reality of the situation in order for us to grow past it?
Beautiful question. There's 2 components there. The first part is we've got to remember what the Greeks were saying 2,000 years ago. Know thyself. You have to know yourself. And the other quality of a leader is to practice the reality principle. The leaders are not in denial. There is no self-delusion. They look objectively at the situation and they say, what is the reality here? So as we explore this, what the leader has an acute awareness is they have a very accurate self-assessment of who they are. They understand their strengths. They also understand their limitations. And the leader knows they've got to be able to do 4 things really well. And it's a process of learning to do this over and over and again. It's trying something and then getting feedback. Once you get the feedback, they adapt, adjust, and respond. So the leader has to do 4 things. First of all, the leader has to solve problems and challenges. Secondly, they have to deal with people and contacts. Thirdly, they've got to deal with the pace and the consistency in the environment. And then fourthly, they've got to be able to follow procedures and work within the rules. Now, the leader understands that when it comes to solving problems and challenges, they're going to have to try many different things. And after they try something, they then seek feedback. Leaders always ask for feedback, and they do what's called a quink analysis. They say, knowing what I now know, what would I do differently next time? And it's in that moment of when they stop, pause, and think, that's when they have a look at that feedback. Remember, feedback is the breakfast of champions, and leaders always welcome feedback. And when they look at the feedback, they take it with an open mind and an open heart because they understand themselves, but they're also ignorant. And leaders understand that they don't know what they don't know. And it's through the process of collecting that information through feedback that they start to eliminate their biases and remove that ignorance from their life. Once again, they adapt, adjust, and respond, and they take another shot. And then they get feedback and take another shot, and that's how they keep moving forward.
I like that because when people hear criticism, at first, if you're not mature enough, you take it the wrong way. And instead of hearing and seeing the situation all the way through, you get emotional about it versus thinking about it and thinking, okay, truthfully, yes, I can sharpen my skills in this area, or I can, like you said moments ago, what did I learn from this situation? If I know now more than what I knew then now I can apply the situation better as far as how I manage the situation. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, going back to your statement about the process, how important is it to manage the process with not just an open mind, but the willingness to act? Because it's one thing to think happy thoughts, right? Of, yes, I want to be a better leader, or I want to do this in life, whatever. But what is the actual, you know what I'm trying to say? What was the actual steps for someone to come from a thought process to actually taking that step of being bold and say, okay, I do need to sharpen my skills and be open-hearted to this situation?
When I wrote the book, The 5 Principles of Success, what I'd learned was that all leaders follow 5 principles. Now, this is a silent language. They don't say, hey, I'm doing step 1, I'm doing step 2. But these are the silent steps that they take. First of all, they get clarity on their outcome. And leaders say future intent determines present action. So a leader is very clear, and they have an internal representation, which is a very clear picture in their mind of what the successful completion of this project looks like. You know, we say, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. And that's where a lot of confusion comes from people, is they can't quite see what they want in the future. They have a little bit of brain fog. They don't have that clarity. Where leaders can clearly describe in all representation systems what they want. So when we say we have a picture in our mind, that picture is just not a picture. It includes sounds. They understand the feelings that they're going to feel in the future when they get to that end point. They understand the smells, the tastes, and even the internal dialogue. So they're very clear on where they're going. That's the first thing. The second thing is after they're clear on where they're going, is then they have a plan to get there. And so once they have their plan, they take steps. Leaders break the big goals down into bite-sized chunks. And leaders just take one step forward every single day. They're not just going from 0 to hero in one step. They're taking it one step at a time. And we call this the law of incremental improvement. They're just getting these little 1% gains every single day. The third thing that they have is they also have sensory acuity. And this is exactly where the feedback comes in, the feedback that you mentioned before. As soon as they take a step forward, they stop, pause, and think. And they start to collect feedback. Now, a lot of the times, the leader finds it very hard to get feedback from the other people. So they have to rely on their senses. They stop, pause, and think, and they say, where am I now, and where do I need to be tomorrow? They ask themselves the question, knowing what I now know, what do I need to do differently? And they start to use their God-given senses. They look around and they say, am I going in the right direction? They use their sense of sound. What's the feedback and what are people saying around me? They also gauge it with their emotions, and all leaders are emotionally intelligent. The fourth thing that the leader does, and it's part of this silent language, is that they have behavioural flexibility. They're willing to step outside of the comfort zone. They're willing to live outside of their comfort zone until they get to the end point. And then fifthly, leaders operate from a psychology of excellence. So what that means is they always focus on what they want. They never consider a plan B, because leaders know that if you consider a plan B for as little as 10 minutes, it's enough to sabotage your success. So they're optimistic, they want to achieve their goals, they're also realistic, and they understand not everything they're going to do is going to work. However, the eye is always on the prize. They never take their eye off the goal, because what you focus on, you attract. So what they do is they just focus, stubbornly focus on that outcome, and they never refuse a thought that could conflict with that outcome.
Once again, we listen to I Am Focused Radio, talking to Daniel Tolson. Go to his website, danieltolson.com. And when it comes to failure is something that is going to happen sooner or later. Just like we're going to have good days and we're also going to have bad days. Mindset is key also. And also fear is something that can either consume us or push us to your point, go outside the comfort zone. This is probably a hard question to answer, but how can we better manage our fears so that way we're not paralyzed by them and allow it to prevent us to take those necessary actions?
Well, it's a beautiful question, and it's quite a simple one to answer. We say that there's two parts to emotional intelligence. The first part is self-awareness, and the second part is self-regulation. So with self-awareness, if you can't name it, you can't tame it. So a lot of people have generalized fear, and so they say, I'm fearful. However, they find it difficult to pinpoint which fear it is. So if you can't name the fear, you can't tame the fear. So there's 4 fears that all of us, leaders, all of us, have to face every single day. When you approach problems and challenges in your life, the emotion that comes along with that is a fear of being taken advantage of. And this is what stops people from asking for help. They think to themselves, if I ask for help, maybe somebody will take advantage of me. So they fear being taken advantage of and they refuse to ask for help. So if you realise that that's the fear for you, then you've got to deal with that fear specifically. Secondly, we all have to interact with people and contacts on a daily basis. As we move forward in life towards our goals, we need the help of other people. It's impossible to do anything alone. even like a podcast. It's much better to talk to somebody else than talk to myself. So the fear that comes along here is the fear of judgment. And people don't want to be judged. So if you're dealing with people and contacts and you're trying to influence and persuade them, then this fear normally gets evoked of judgment. At least once you're aware of that, you can start to manage it. Thirdly, as we start to move outside of our comfort zones, we have a fear of losing our stability. So if you've taken the first step and all of a sudden you start to feel a blood rush, your heart starts to pump and you want to take a step backwards, that's just the fear of losing your stability. Now that you're aware of it, you can manage it. And the fourth and final one, and this is what really holds a lot of people back, it's the fear of making a mistake. It's the fear of trying and failing. However, at least once you're aware of that particular fear, you can then start to regulate it. So they're the four fears: the fear of being taken advantage of, the fear of judgment, the fear of losing your stability, and the fear of trying and failing. They're the four major ones you've got to learn to become aware of and then regulate.
And speaking to the audience real quick, say someone right now, they're working a day job. They may not be their own boss, the CEO or whatnot. And they're listening to this episode and they're like, man, well, I like my field, but how can I grow? How can I get up to the top of the ladder? So if it's something that they really love to do, X, Y, Z, how can they add that into that world too as a career path? Not with some of the ways, but how can they add what you're saying into their personal life so that when they go to work, it's almost like, wow, you're a whole new person because you're leading versus, I guess you can say, being needy or isolated.
The question to ask yourself is, why am I on the payroll? This is the most important question that you can ever ask yourself in your career. Why am I on the payroll? And what you'll find is there'll be three things that you need to do to succeed in your career. For example, in my career, and the reason why I'm on the payroll in my company is I have to have the ability to speak, to sell, and to serve. They're the three most important things. And if I master those three areas, then I'm always of value to my company and I'm always of service to my customers. So stop and ask yourself the question, why am I on the payroll? Now, if you can't find clarity on that, go and ask your leader. Say to your leader, what are the three things, and the only three things that if I become really good at them, I can become the best in my career? And your leader should be able to tell you those three things, and then you master those three things. And remember, we live in a world that pays us based on our contributions. And the more contributions you make to your company, the more rewards you will receive. So first question, why am I on the payroll? And you're looking for three things. Remember, my three things are speak, sell, and serve. You'll have your own three. Also ask your leader, why am I on the payroll? If I could do three things really well, what would they be? And then what you do is you master those three things. That is the contribution. And then in today's society, we get rewarded for those contributions. And at the end of the day, here's the secret. We are all our own boss. So if you ever want a pay rise, just look in the mirror and ask yourself for the pay rise.
I like that. I like how you put that. That is so true. And just to add to that, I want to tell people, if they want to learn about Daniel Tolson, you need to go to his website right now, danieltolson.com. Because the reason why I say that is because you have all these different resources that people can take advantage of and use as a starting point. If someone's listening to this right now, if they're in the very beginning, say, like I said, they're in their career path, maybe they're not a business owner just yet, but they do have an opportunity to be a leader, what would you recommend that they tap into when they go visit your website?
You want to learn about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the biggest predictor of success. We say that emotional intelligence contributes to 58% of your daily success. So when you go to my website, there's a ton of resources there on the field of emotional intelligence.
Once again, I want to say true honor on I Am Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Daniel Tolson. I just want to say thank you for taking time in your busy schedule, talking to us. And how can people stay in contact with you if they want your services or if they just want to keep in touch?
Come and play. Come and play on Facebook. I've got a beautiful group there called Accelerate and Multiply. So type in Accelerate and Multiply. Come and join the group. And I share resources every single week, and I share conversations like we're having today. And these ideas, they're very practical and they work immediately. So come and learn and have fun.
Once again, true honor having Daniel Tolson on I Am Refocused Radio. Go visit his website, danieltolson.com. Once again, that's danieltolson.com. I want to say thank you, sir, again, for taking time in your busy schedule, talking to us today.
Anytime, my friend.
I Am Refocused Radio is brought to you by Foo 4 Star and Holy Crab. Foo 4 Star is a family-owned Asian restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. We have been a local favorite for Asian cuisine for over 10 years. With nothing but full smiles and fast service, you'll be leaving satisfied. Come on in for some authentic Vietnamese food. Holy Crab is one-of-a-kind Cajun Creole-style seafood restaurant located in Universal City, Texas. We offer traditional seafood items as well as chicken and steak. We also offer seafood boils. Come give us a try. You won't be disappointed. You can find these two eateries in Universal City, Texas at 2921 Pat Booker Road.